editing videos. All right, we are back on the Willis Show. This is a very special episode. I have a friend of mine who I've known for many, many years since freshman year of high school.
Yeah, man.
Uh, his name is Jamie Turner. He's my brother, man, and I it's kind of hard. It's kind of tough for me to talk, but here lately, my brother's gone through a struggle with cancer, and it's pancreatic cancer, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
So, and at one point they thought you were stage 4, but then it went like to stage 2.
Right. It went down this. It's called stage 2B. Uh,
2B. Okay.
it's just shy of being stage 3, but 2B is what they're calling it.
Okay. And um, I'm going to try to recollect some things as best I can. My memory is shot. Thank you, pro wrestling. The I got okay. Very beginning, we were planning a road trip. We have not seen each other. We have two other friends, Jamie Walker, Michael Peavy. We're all tight in high school. Known each other for 100 years. I've known Peavy since I was 5. Um,
I'm
and
sorry.
yeah, right. It's not your fault. We got news that you said, guys, I don't know if I can go on this trip. I'm not feeling well. And you tell me from there what you remember picking up on, because I'm telling this from my side, and then so you thought originally you had something wrong, like a stomach problem, right?
Right. So we were planning to do the Bandit run. We were
Hmm.
going to plan to Texarkana
That's right,
because
the Bandit
we
Run.
that since we were kids. Um, and I had been having some stomach issues. Not really sure exactly what was going on. Had been to the doctor a couple of different times. Had and was getting treated for what they thought was an ulcer.
Mm.
Uh, at that point, uh, it was we were starting to discover that this may not be an ulcer. There might be a little bit more to it. And my wife and I and our kids, we went on vacation, and I just got really sick while we were on vacation, and made a phone call to my doctor, who was at Emory University, and he was like, "Yeah, you need to get seen. But the only way I can get you in here is you're going to have to check in through the ER." So we get back from vacation. We were back a day, and off to the ER I went and got admitted to the hospital through the emergency room at that point.
Now, but at this point, we still thought it was a some sort of stomach issue. I know you had complained about like some bloating and some pain and some things
Right.
before this. So, um, and I listened to some of the other podcasts you were on. Um, but was this prior to seeing the specialist, or you went to the ER first?
No, to see the specialist, I had seen him once in like a virtual environment doctor appointment. Um, Now this is the guy at Emory, and when I was coming back from vacation and we had a phone conversation, that's when he said, "Hey, come through the ER."
Hmm.
Um, so I did. They did some tests and stuff, and they had initially diagnosed me with a duodenal ulcer, is what they had initially said.
Hmm.
Um, and so I was taking some really nasty medicine to treat this duodenal ulcer. Um, like this stuff, you would take a pill, this giant horse pill. I mean, that thing was like that, and you would put it in a grinder and grind it up to a powder, and then you mix it up in water and you drink it. Um, but you mix it so it's like the consistency of pudding. So just you can just imagine how bad that tasted. And I'm all about taste. If something doesn't taste good, it ain't happening. So, um, so anyway, fast forward from all that, and the doctor, the specialist at Emory, says, "Hey, you need to get seen. I need you here, but the only way I can see you is to come in through the ER. His office is booked. He can't get me in." And he says, "If you come in through the ER, they'll call me and say, 'Hey, one of your patients is here. You need to come down and see him.'" And so that's what we did. I get to the hospital at Emory. They take me right in. They immediately give me medication for pain, um, and they set me up to have a CAT scan and an MRI and some X-rays and get all that stuff done. And the doctor that was in the emergency room um, comes in and tells me that it's no wonder that I have a stomach ache because I have about 3 liters of fluid that's stuck in my stomach and
Ooh.
can't get out. So, so at that point, I get admitted, and they take me, and they want to do some tests. They want to do a test called an ERCP. Basically, they run a tube down your throat into your stomach to they use it to kind of get rid of tissue buildup and stuff like that. And they're still thinking at this point that I have a ulcer. Um, but it's not. Uh, the first time they try, they can't get the instrument to pass through deep enough to see anything
Hmm.
because sort of blockage there, and they're not real sure what it is. I went to the hospital on a Tuesday and got admitted, and on Wednesday they tried to do the first ERCP, and it was a failure because they couldn't get the instrument through. They tried again on Thursday after giving me a whole bunch of medicine for inflammation. Failed again. Couldn't get the instrument to pass. On Friday, I had two done, and they couldn't get the instrument to pass on either one. And finally, they decided to take a biopsy of the blockage.
Okay, so they thought there was just a blockage there, and I did they do the after the biopsy? Was did they think it was cancer? And I because I know they removed something, right?
Right. So um they didn't. They were still the specialist was still pretty confident that I did not have cancer. Um, but they weren't exactly sure what was causing the blockage. So that's why they initially did. That's why they did the biopsy.
So on after the so they did find the cancer after the biopsy, correct? Now this is all going on with your stomach. How do we get to your pancreas? I guess is what I'm trying to figure out.
So okay, um, so they do the on that Friday they take the biopsy. On Saturday morning, an entourage of doctors comes in, and I mean an entourage. It was crazy. And the head honcho says, "Here to talk to you about what's wrong with you." And I'm like, "All right, cool." And he says, "Your biopsy tested positive for blah 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 carcinoma," which at that point I know means cancer. He said, "You have cancer, but you have cancer in your duodenum, and it's a pretty easy fix, with the surgery." And I said, "Oh, well, wait a minute. All these other guys have told me I didn't have cancer. They were very confident that it was not cancer." And he said, "Well," he said, "I'm here to tell you that the biopsy doesn't lie. We ran it a couple of times, and it's positive for cancer." And so you gotta kind of look at the. It was hard to hear because here I am in a hospital by myself. No family, no friends, no visitors, no nothing. And I get this news all on my own. And it was crazy. But I was pretty confident because the doctors seemed very confident, and to the surgery would correct it, and I would walk away with no issues. Um, so he starts describing the surgery that they're going to do. It's called a Whipple procedure. They go in and they remove part of your stomach. They remove the section of the duodenum that has the cancer, and they remove part of the pancreas.
Okay, so they do the surgery. Is that when the chemo starts, or was there another step?
So they do the surgery, and this is where it gets crazy. Um, I have the surgery. Uh, I had it about 2 weeks after the diagnosis because I wanted to come home for my daughter's birthday. So I was home for a few days and went back to the surgery. And so I have the surgery. I wake up from from the surgery, and they start talking to me about it was a success. We got the cancer, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, all right, that's awesome. Um, I was in the hospital for about a week, I guess, after the surgery. So that and basically that was time for me to heal until I could get up and walk and move around without having to have a lot of help. Because they want you to kind of be independent. Obviously you kind of want your life. Um, so we did that. Um, but then we started asking questions of the doctor. Did you get all the cancer? Was it cancer of the duodenum? How much was there? All these questions. And people were asking me, like my wife was asking, my parents were asking, my friends, my in-laws, all these folks. And so I started making phone calls, and the doctor would never call me back. And finally, after about a week of calls, he finally called me back, and he says, "What can I do for you?" And I said, "I really want to talk to you about my surgery. I want to know what the results were, and there's been plenty of time now for the biopsies and everything to come back. I just kind of want to know what's going on." And he proceeds to tell me that he doesn't like to talk about stuff like that over the phone. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to hold you. I'm not going to be mad because you tell me the truth. I need to know. So he begins to tell me that it wasn't cancer of the duodenum, but it was actually cancer of the pancreas. The tumor um, had basically taken over the head of my pancreas and grown into the duodenum, which created all kinds of problems. That's why my stomach wasn't draining. But there's also a duct that the cancer had entered as well, so it was a pretty big deal. Um, but he was still very confident that he was able to get all the cancer uh, and save about 40% of my pancreas. But then I started asking more questions. Was there any lymph nodes involved? And he says yes. That I had 3 lymph nodes that were involved that tested positive, and that's when the staging part of this all started. Um, Initially, they called it 4, and then they said no, it's 3. I said no, it's 2B because I've read enough about this to know that if it's 1 to 3 lymph nodes involved along with the pancreas, it's 2B. If it was 4 to 5, then it becomes 3. Anything over 5, it's 4, and you better get your affairs in order.
Yeah. Um, at the time all this was going on, and we, just from a friendship perspective, when we found out the diagnosis was cancer, I'm really trying to remember the time frame because I think I'm almost positive I was in Texas.
Uh, I think so.
Would have been July, maybe June.
Yeah, the surgery was July the 9th.
Okay. I point I'm making here I am. I've got this friend. He's got cancer. It's of the pancreatic type. A year earlier, I'd lost a friend to that type of cancer. Unfortunately, he went very quickly, about 6 months. And on top of that, I lose my stepfather to lung cancer, stage 4. So I'm trying to console my mother. And man, when I got that news for you, I was devastated
Yeah,
because, and I told my mother, I said, COVID's happening. We're still getting Carl's affairs in order, but no matter what I do, I have to see Jamie. And man, I'm choking up about it now. Um, but I said, no, I have to see Jamie. I can't let something happen to him without me seeing him one more time because I didn't really know what the deal was.
right.
So, uh, so you made it out. You recovered from the Whipple procedure and all that, and then we knew you were getting ready to go into chemo. So we planned like the greatest trip ever.
Yeah, for sure. So for the chemo, I basically had to heal up from the surgery before I could start the chemo, and they gave me, I can't remember the exact time, the exact amount of time, but it was between somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks, to heal up, which I needed every bit of, man, because that's a tough surgery. I was cut from just below the xiphoid process, which the end of your breastbone, to just about the top of my belly button. And the good news is they don't cut through muscle, but they cut through muscle fascia, which that's the connective tissue that connects muscles together. So that has a tendency to heal pretty quickly, but it's I mean, just
That's what,
imagine. I guess the way to put it is imagine taking some serious blows to the solar plexus from from one of the road warriors. Every 5 minutes for 6 weeks. I mean it's tough, and but I will say that I was extremely blessed. Uh, my wife and my son, they were here with me the whole time. They helped me do things that as a man, you don't want help with. Uh, get things like getting in and out of the shower, or getting up off the toilet. I mean, who wants to ask their wife for help like that? It's humbling. But at the same time, my wife and my son, they're beautiful souls, and which I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. Um, and they're servants of God, and they were here for me. And we all became extremely close, closer probably than we've ever been because of this. So in that sense, we all grew, as a family unit, as people. Um, our relationships improved, and not going to say I didn't have bad days, because Lord knows I had a ton of bad days. But you know, during all this recovery from the Whipple, we had to find a an oncologist, that we trusted, and that was a pretty long and tedious process in itself.
right. First of all, that was a very invasive surgery that you had.
Yeah,
So you can understand the recovery. And man, here's the thing that a lot of people don't know. I know this was discussed on other podcasts, But after 17 years, you had just become a father again.
Yes.
I mean, that,
And you know, crazy, crazy, crazy. My wife pops up pregnant after we had tried to have another child for a good grief. I don't even know how long. We finally were just like threw our hands up and we're like, yeah, we have nothing else we just don't have it in us. So so we had this miracle baby, and I'm 46 years old, and my wife's 44, and um, and that this beautiful little girl was, you know, one of the one of the three reasons that I fought so hard. My wife, my son, and her, and uh, and that was tough because I was so used to being able to pick her up and hold her and things of that nature. And as she's a year old, she doesn't understand why all of a sudden dad can't just bend over and pick her up. And uh and I think in some ways, I think that probably confused her a good bit. But my wife, in all of her wisdom and motherly instincts, picked up on the fact that Ruby Claire was not herself with that, and I'm not myself about it. So she would just pick her up and put her on my lap, or Cole would pick her up and put her on my lap, and so we made the most of it, just like anything else.
yeah, I mean, you have a, first of all, and you always have a beautiful family. No, Ruby was a bit of a shock to you at first. You like me. You're getting a little bit older. How do I keep up with this child? And you know, damn, you get this diagnosis, but at the same time, you've got an extra person that gives you a little more motivation to live. And you knew, we tried to text and call as much as we could, and just to give you some encouragement. Um, but anyway, we ended up going to Louisville, Kentucky, and somehow we crossed into Indiana a little bit. Was it
Yeah,
Indiana? Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
and so I mean, we have a blast. I got a little anecdote here, just to. I mean, we're talking about a serious subject, but just to throw a little bit of humor in here. That trip, we it was like a whirlwind weekend. I think I was up at one point. Well, let me tell you this, and you probably know. So we travel from Charleston, and you're north of Atlanta. You're in North Georgia.
Right.
So it took a minute to get there, and we left pretty late as it was, because we had to wait for people to get off work and stuff. And when there's rented Tahoe, which was great because that vehicle was awesome.
Yeah.
And after telling me I can't hang, Peavy falls asleep. First one.
Always,
So
always.
so I'm shooting snaps at him to sleep just so I can rag him the next day. We finally get to your place, and I don't know what got a hold of me, but I'm like blowing up your toilet. So these other two idiots are laughing their butts off because it's just echoing throughout the chambers of your house. And I don't think we slept an hour. I don't know. It was not very much time at all once we got in.
I'll tell you what was funny about that is that, all we had talked about was that you guys would get here. We knew it'd be kind of late. You guys would crash for a few hours, and then we would get up and we would try to get out of the house by like, no later than 7 o'clock in the morning. And that I would start off driving so that you guys could get some rest. Well, like a lot of times when you see old friends and stuff, sleep all of a sudden takes a back seat to everything. And so I remember we're sitting in the living room, we're just talking and talking, and fun of you for because you're the toilet terrorist at this point. And
Sorry. Go ahead.
so we're sitting there, and Walker's like, "Man, let's just go." And I'm like, "Yeah, let's just go."
Much. Make sure you get coal in. But you can't see much. I don't know if we can see him at all. Hey, it's about what 5:15 in the morning, 5:20. We are on the road, Kentucky bound. We have JT and Cole in the car, and we are rolling out towards Churchill Downs. We'll probably take a brief stop in Nashville for a little breakfast, but we are on the road. Somebody's watching. Somebody's watching us at 5 in the morning. You kidding
How
me?
many likes we got, mate?
I don't know. I have to go back and look at. I gotta go back and look at the other videos. But anyway, that's just a brief. It'll be more interesting in the daylight besides looking at the screen of the car. But anyway, we'll post up maybe at breakfast time in Nashville. So be safe, everyone. I hope everyone's sleeping soundly. I'm not, but yeah, there's a story behind that too. We'll tell it later.
So,
Bye.
and the greatest part of that trip was the fact that we took Cole with us, my son. And all of you guys are his uncles and always have been, but he's never been off with us. And it was a little scary, a little dangerous. Wasn't real sure what he was going to hear, but we did make him swear on his life that nothing would be repeated. Um, and I think he's done a good job of upholding that. So we hop in that Tahoe, and we take off. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning or something like that, 3 o'clock in the morning, and off we go to Louisville, Kentucky, the of all places.
I was gonna say we hit the pancake house first.
Yes, I remember we're driving, and I thought to myself, where can I take these guys to start this trip off the right way? And there's this spot in Nashville, Tennessee, the Pancake Pantry. Shout out to the Pancake Pantry for being fantastic. Um, it was still COVID season, so we weren't real sure if we were going to get in or if we got in, or we were going to sit together or whatever the case was. We got there just as they were opening the doors, and they welcomed us with open arms, and we went to work at the Pancake Pantry. And I would highly suggest that if any of your viewers or listeners, if you're anywhere near Nashville, hit the Pancake Pantry. The omelets are fantastic, but the blueberry pancakes, you body slam your mama for.
Yeah,
So
that I was gonna say that was a good start to
yeah,
a pretty awesome adventure throughout the day. Um, and I even got a compliment on my Spider-Man neck gaiter cover from a really attractive young lady outside. So I was like, this trip's starting out good already. All right, so from the Pancake Pantry, and like I said, thank you for that. Thank you for that shout out. If you want to send some sponsor money, I kid. Um, no, really, if you're in Nashville, go to that place and eat some breakfast and jam up food. So we hit the road. Now we're headed toward Louisville, and we make a stop at Churchill Downs,
yes,
where
yes,
I had now this point we're going to places I've never stopped. Or
right.
I I know I've been through Kentucky, but I never stopped in Kentucky. So that was a thrill for me. Um, I mean, they have like where Secretariat is buried. There's just a lot of cool stuff. Now we didn't stay super long. We didn't take the tour because we knew we had the Louisville Slugger tour coming up.
Right.
And man, like I said, I'm running on fumes, but still, it was amazing, amazing, amazing time.
Yeah. Well,
Something
you remember
oh, go ahead.
we get to the Churchill Downs, and the only one of all of us that had ever been there was my kid. He had actually been to Churchill Downs before with his mom,
Mm.
and so we check it out, go in, buy some souvenirs, that kind of jazz. But the funniest part about that one is when we left and we got lost. Remember, we got lost in the side streets around Churchill Downs, and a little rough, but we made it. Luckily, we were in the Tahoe with blacked out windows, so nobody could really, maybe they thought we were government agents or something. I don't know, but we were pretty safe. And then, but that was right after a lot of the riots and stuff. And you remember when we got to Louisville Slugger Museum, a lot of the downtown area, there was a lot of damage down there from the riots and everything, which was, seeing that was really like eye opening, I think. You don't think about when you live in small town Georgia like I do, or Goose Creek like you do, you don't you don't see that side of the world very often, and you kind of take for granted that you live in a small town and you don't have those big city problems. But to see that, for me personally, was very um, very inspiring, um, very humbling, you know. And I kind of thought I've thought several times about that in that trip. That was probably one of the better moments I had, and that sounds terrible to say, but it helped me to realize that there's a lot of people out there that aren't as lucky as I am, even with cancer. There's a lot of people out there that aren't as lucky as I am.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because that was uh, something I noticed as well. Um, like we had riot, we actually had like a day or a night of riots.
Hmm.
And I can remember my buddy Raymond Owens. He now works for Channel Two here in Charleston, and he live streamed. And he live streamed for about 3.5 hours. Um, and let me tell you why I love Charleston. Because the next day, people got up, started cleaning up. You know, Charlestonians went to work, man,
Yeah,
and that right there is inspiring to me. Where you would go to Louisville, you still see some damage, and man, the city of Portland just got hammered and hammered and hammered with riots. So it makes you really appreciative of, it puts things in perspective. Um, like I said, no matter how bad you have it, some people have it a heck of a lot worse. You know,
yep, you're exactly right.
so now you're a huge baseball fan,
Always have been,
and
always
you
have.
right, and you've been a baseball coach. Your degree was in sports medicine,
Right.
so you knew kind of where you were going. I think you were in hog heaven. Jamie Walker also because he played baseball. Um, I've never played baseball, and I have watched the Braves suffer through many terrible seasons. But I learned a lot, and just on that tour, I
Yeah,
learned a lot about how bats were made and the history of the sport, and just to go in there and read some of those plaques and see some of those bats. You know,
yeah. I had always that's someplace I'd always wanted to go. Um, always wanted to see, and it was incredible to walk in the door and you see this wall, and there's all these little signature plates, about this big from bats, and they're like in numerical order from the very first person to the very last person that's signed. And it was amazing. I was like a kid in a candy store, seeing some of the players that from my dad's era that I grew up listening to stories about, Mickey Mantle, Roger Maris, all these guys, and their names are on these things, and you're looking at it going, wow, this is incredible. But then seeing names like Derek Jeter and Dale Murphy and, just amazing. And walking through there and um, getting to see the whole process of the bat being made, I mean, that was awesome. And for someone who probably isn't a baseball fan or a sports fan in general, they would probably think, really, give me a break. But it was cool. It was cool. And one of the coolest things that for me personally was, like you said, I coached baseball. I was a high school baseball coach for pretty close to 15 years down in Florida, and coached several guys that went on to play in minor leagues and stuff. But I have one guy that I coached um, that actually is still in the is he's in the major leagues, and his name's D. Gordon, and to see his name on the wall there under the Louisville Slugger Silver Slugger Award that he won a few years ago, to see his name on there was just incredible for me. I was just it's very, very proud moment. And I remember I called him on FaceTime and was like, "Hey, look where I am," and showed him his name. And he's like, "Oh, coach, man, that's whatever. You're a really humble guy, really good kid." And but it was cool to share that moment with him and with my son and with you guys. I could brag a little bit. Look, this is the guy. And if you'll remember, we talked to him in the car going home just before we got to the Corvette Museum. I called him back, and everybody got to say hello to him from the car. So that was cool. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a cool moment. And I know for me, watching that whole process, I mean, you watch the from them cutting down the tree because show you a video, and then to watching people dip paint
Yeah.
the bats, watching one lady over here in a corner stamping bats. I mean, that was a pretty awesome process. And there's a if you ever go visit the Louisville Slugger Museum, one of the really cool things for me, not being as big a baseball fan as you guys are, nothing wrong with baseball, just wasn't my sport of choice, but going in that room with the custom bats
Mhm.
that had been specially made for, like, there was a Kiss bat, and it was
Yeah.
signed by all the members of Kiss. There was like a Tim McGraw and Faith Hill bat, and I'll probably put some photos up of some of this stuff, as we're going through this video and this chat. But man, I like I said, that's something I'm glad we did, because I can't describe it enough, but it was really cool. And
Yeah.
they
I
give
mean,
you the
it
uh
was a experience.
there we go. Still got it right there. They give you this little bat as a souvenir
Yep.
when you go when you go through there. So, I still
Yep.
got it, brother. So,
Yep. Mine's on the wall over there with. I'll show you real quick. Let me get up out of this. So I got this bat rack over here. Can you see that? Here's the one from our museum tour, and these are just some bats from that I've collected along the way from guys that I coached. Here's a. It's not a Louisville Slugger, but this is a D. Gordon bat, and this is a trophy bat that my players gave me after I retired, so to speak. This is the Louisville Slugger bat from one of my. This one right here. One of my former players who got drafted by the Boston Red Sox out of high school, and actually he got drafted by the Atlanta Braves out of high school, and then decided he wanted to go to college because he wasn't sure how long he'd be able to play in the big leagues, and went to college, and then got drafted by the Red Sox out of college. So one of the first things he did was bring me home one of his bats because that was a requirement for Coach T.
Okay, where is the core bat that we all sign?
The core bat is actually upstairs in my room. Um, I have a I've got to put up another bat rack and to hang it on. So, but it's sorry, it's well preserved. It's in a box, same box we brought it home in, and it'll be ready to put on the wall. But I actually got a different rack for that one so that it would be by itself to commemorate that trip.
Yeah, nice. And I was just kidding you. I didn't didn't want you to have to walk upstairs.
On You ain't gonna get me to walk upstairs right now, buddy. I had chemo today. I ain't feeling like walking upstairs.
you you can't get much. I went to. This is just a side note. I went to lunch with a guy I knew in the wrestling business, and we probably haven't talked in 10 plus years. And sat down and got some stuff smoothed out, and I was glad we did it. And unfortunately, though, he is also in treatment for cancer, so that's becoming a big thing for me. Um, I really am starting to see more and more people suffer with this, and I know there's so many different types, but I hope at least with this this interview that we're doing, we can raise some awareness. And I know we're gonna put some links up to your GoFundMe. I know you haven't been to work in 2 years.
It'll be actually a year, probably first. It'll be a year, um, and it's been tough. My wife has toted the mail, so to speak. She's done a lot for us financially, maintaining her employment to the best of her ability, and then COVID hit, and her job kind of dried up. Um, but we've to be perfectly frank, Jason, we have been extremely blessed um, by a lot of people. Um, I've had a couple of national, I guess national. I don't know exactly what you call it. Interviews. One with the Warrior Poet Society. Those guys just showed up on my doorstep and we're like, "Hey, we're here to help, and we want to do an interview with you. And we're going to put it on our page, and we have over 1 million followers, and we feel like we could help raise some awareness to pancreatic cancer and maybe drive some people, to help in other ways." Um, so that was a huge blessing. And then after that, the guys from Project Purple found me through the Warrior Poet Society, and we did an interview with those guys. And so I mean, it's been pretty amazing with that on that side of it.
Yeah, and I'll make sure if we get the links for them, we'll put some shout outs for them as well for their generosity for your cause. Hate to touch on this part, but we're going to go ahead and go through this whole thing because I want people to really understand your story.
Sure.
Uh, you got a bill of, well, they told you were in remission,
Right.
and that seemed great. And then, but you find out you have to have another round of chemo and radiation, correct?
Okay, so we always knew that radiation was going to be part of it. We actually wanted the radiation after doing some research and reading and talking to the doctors and stuff. We knew that radiation would add a little, not a lot, but would add an extra layer of protection, I guess is the best way to put it.
Would you say assurance that they have?
Yeah, that's probably a good word for it. So my oncologist um, was a little apprehensive about doing radiation. Sorry, I'm trying to get this phone right.
All right.
He apprehensive about doing radiation because uh, he didn't know how much purpose it would serve. Because there was a great deal of feeling that all of the cancer was gone. Um, now you don't, you can say that, but cancer operates on a cellular level. And so even the greatest scanning machines in the world can't can't see the cellular level. So that's why we really pushed for it. So I met with the radiation oncologist there at the cancer center that I was going to or go to, and I meet with him. He'd actually already spent time looking over my case, and he agrees that radiation is needed. Um, but the part that we didn't expect was that I was going to have additional chemotherapy, and that really threw me for a loop. I mean, it really did. Like I was so ready to be done with chemo because there's so many harsh things that are associated with chemo. The things it does to your body and um, your mind and all this stuff. Uh, so initially, they said I was going to have chemo once a week as an infusion, but I would have to wear a pump, and that pump would stay on me for like 42 hours or something, and I'd have to wear it around and all this other stuff. Um, and I kind of threw a hissy fit. I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't want to do it. I was like, hey, I'm done with this, and um, I don't want to do it. And then my wife, uh, we were leaving the cancer center after meeting with the doctor, and I was having a moment, and my wife says, I want you just to think about one thing before you decide that you're not going to do this or whatever. She said, you promised me, you promised our kids, and you promised your friends that you would do whatever it took to beat this. Whatever it took, you would do it. And you wouldn't ask questions and you wouldn't ask why. And that resonated with me. It was like, I don't know, it's kind of like just a bass drum going off in my head, bouncing around. And I said, okay. I said, I just need a few days. I've got to process this. And if you'll recall, that when I found that out, that was like on a Monday or a Tuesday, and I was in Charleston the following Friday, and Saturdays when we all went to lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And by that point, I had processed it. I was good. Um, but then we got good news as well that I wouldn't have to wear the pump, um, that I could actually have the chemo in pill form, uh, which was great. But now I get chemo 5 days a week, twice a day for 5 days a week, and it in itself has some pretty significant side effects. But I roll with it because I don't have to wear that stupid pump, and um, it's not hard to swallow 3 pills. I take 1,500 milligrams of it twice a day, so 3,000 milligrams total. And today I completed treatment number 13 of 28, so I got 15 more to go. 15 total, and that is the chemo and the radiation together. They work in combination with one another. So it's basically 3 weeks from today, and I'll be done. May 12th is my last day.
Nice, nice. Um, like I said, we had that lunch, and I know there was some apprehension, but I'm really proud of you. That wife of yours is a pretty smart lady. Number one.
Yes, she
Uh,
is.
Number two, I'm proud of you. I know I can't even imagine. I haven't had to go through anything like you have, but I can only imagine how much it sucks because just from being around people that have gone through these things, the side effects. I know the side effects must be miserable,
Oh
and
yeah,
I know there was some conversations we had, Skype or whatever, when we were just all kind of getting together, and uh, we ordered you. Well, I'll give PV the credit on this one. This was his idea, and I think he paid for it as well. But the barbecue, and you said, "Boys, I want to eat with you, but I think I'm just going to have to eat it later because you were sick."
yeah.
You know, um, I don't want to give people any illusions about what you're going through. Um, um, man, I'm getting choked up. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Um, but yeah, it's a tough disease. It's a tough treatment. I hear things all the time. I've got another guy that's on his third round with it. Hopefully, he can knock it out this time. This time, it's in his prostate, I believe, and he's going through it all over again. And I know when he had the radiation the first time, it was in his throat, and to this day, he still can't. The things he used to enjoy to eat, which would kill me, I'd probably lose 90 pounds. Um, his taste isn't right, you know, and may not be for a long time, if ever. So
well, to put it in perspective, I've lost 200 pounds in the last year. The When I first started just straight chemo before I had radiation, it was chemo was 6 months of twice a month treatments with a drug combination called fulfurinox. Um, my oncologist tells me that fulfurinox is probably in the top two or three of the harshest drugs that are used to treat cancer. Uh, he is extremely surprised about how well I tolerated it. Now, I mean, it's not like I was going out and doing the song and dance every day. But a lot of people with the fulfurinox, they're sick, from day one to the end. Um, I had a tendency to, you know, all my infusions were like on Monday, and I would feel okay on Monday. I'd be tired because the medicines make you tired. Um, and I was getting some pain meds and associated because I had some crazy side effects from one of the drugs. Um, so I would feel okay on Monday. Tuesdays, I was a little dragging. I would sleep a little longer on Tuesdays, but I would now keep in mind I'm wearing this pump at this point. Um, and on Wednesday in the afternoon, I would have to go to the infusion center and get my pump removed. Um, and as soon as that pump came off, it was a difference of night and day. Man, I was so sick and felt horrible. And Thursday, I would feel horrible. And Friday and Saturday and Sunday, and then usually by Tuesday of the next week, because that would be my off week from chemo, I would start to feel a little better. And by the time that weekend would hit, I would feel pretty good. Um, in the sense that I wasn't nauseated and things of that nature. I mean, I didn't have the ability to go and go run the 5K or anything like that. But I could carry on a conversation without having to jump up and run to the bathroom because I would felt like I was going to puke or something like that. And all of that would go on until Monday, and then Monday I would be right back at the infusion center and start all over. And that was my life, not just my life; it was our lives. My wife, my kids, you guys. I mean, for 6 months, and it was tough, and but uh, I had a tendency to think that I'm a little better person for it. You know, um, I I I think I've learned to be a better husband. I've learned to be a better father. Uh, And I've learned to appreciate relationships. My relationship with you, my relationship with Peavy, with Jamie Walker, with my parents, with some of my buddies from college that call once a week to check on me, and guys that I coached with, and kids that I coached, and you just don't realize the impact that you have on somebody's life until you're in kind of a situation like this, and people start to tell you what an impact you've had on their life, because they're afraid you're going to die. I mean, let's face it, pancreatic cancer up until about 2 or 3 years ago was a death sentence, and unfortunately for a lot of people, it still is, because it goes undetected for so long. It goes undetected until it's too late. I was just lucky that I was having all these stomach issues associated with it, and they were able to dig around and find it.
Yeah, and that's I think you hit the nail on the head. And if there's one lesson I can impart from all this, man, don't take things for granted. Um, we're not promised tomorrow. Um, things happen in your life. Certainly, the last couple of years of my life well, last year and a half for sure, have been pretty rough. Yeah, don't take it for granted. And the other thing I said, and I'll say this again, man, I'm proud of you for hanging in there, for fighting. I know that nausea's got to completely suck. I had nausea last night, and I think it was just so I was so worried about some stuff. But yeah, and I'm trying to imagine that having like 5 or 6 days out of a 7 day week, and then you got to repeat that whole process again.
Yeah.
Um, man, thank you for doing this. I don't want to hold your whole night up. We've gone about an hour now. Give my best to Cole, Kim, Ruby,
I'll do it.
and I got that calendar marked for May 12th. I'm gonna send you a bunch of way to goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Go
man.
ahead.
It's doing. I'll tell you what's crazy, man, is the doing stuff like this with you, and the Warrior Poet Society, and Project Purple. It's been really cool. It's interesting to share your story, and for people to want to hear it. And hey, I hope it drives people to your page. I hope people get something out of it. Um, you have my email address and stuff like that. If anybody that's out there that is going through this, or has a loved one going through it, and they want to talk, they want to know more about what my treatment, and the things that I've done, I encourage, reach out, man. I will talk to anybody. Um, I told the guys from Project Purple that if I could help one person, just one person, get through this, um, all of this will be worth it for me. Because I'll know that I helped somebody else, and ultimately that's what we're here for, is to help each other out.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I appreciate you coming on. Um, I'm hoping that on my end too, just from somebody that hears your story, and we'll put plenty of links up. If you can, and I know people are going through a tough time right now with we're on the tail end of COVID. Hopefully, we're on the tail end. Um, but it's affected a lot of people. But anything you can give to the GoFundMe, and this beautiful family that I've known, for so long, for many many years, and of course a brother I've known even longer. Um, Wonderful son, beautiful, little girl. Um, I want to tear up again. That was the sweetest thing I ever saw. I was so glad that you were able to do the daddy daughter uh, thing that I saw, the dance. And man, I'm always in your corner. You call me when you need me, and let's try to get some money from you, and let's try to help some folks, because I think this is an important subject. And I'll say this, I'll let you have the last word, but just in closing for me, imagine it was all those years ago that we were at Relay for Life,
Yeah.
for Jerry Timmons' mom.
Yeah.
And in a way, there's a certain amount of irony in that, but also I don't know then if I appreciated the struggle like I do now. And now I know why we needed to take that walk. It wasn't just about making low country boil, which was awesome. um, that we were out there and we could do that. But man, at the end of the day, and like I said, this is a radical departure from anything I've ever done on this show. But hopefully I can use my supervillain powers for good this time. Raise some awareness and most of all help you, bro. And like I said, I want to thank you for coming on, and you've got the last word.
Oh man, first, like I've told you and Mike and Jamie and my two really good friends from college. Uh, there's no way in the world that I have the success that I've had fighting this without you guys. That trip to Louisville, as insignificant as it may seem to some people, um, we got back on the Sunday before I started chemo, and the best part about that entire trip was the fact that we didn't talk about cancer until about the last hour. And Jamie Walker, you could just see it in his eyes. He had a question. Having friends like you guys and a wife and parents. I mean, my parents have been amazing through all this. Uh, my dad lets me call and complain when I need to, and he just listens. My mom is the same way. But she, at the end of the day, she's still a mom as she was. Uh, my wife, my son, my daughter are amazing people. And, I look at the big picture and I see the number of people that have helped me, um, and without any strings, all unconditional. And I listened to my buddy TC tonight do a sermon at First Baptist of Goose Creek, and it was broadcast on the internet. And his sermon was about being my brother's keeper, and it really made me think about how much you and Mike and Jamie have kind of been there for me. You know, when I'm feeling sad or frustrated or whatever the case may be, you guys are my keepers. You guys keep me on the straight and narrow. And my wife is the same way. And it's been a journey, man. It's been a journey, and it's been a good one. I can't complain. I've never asked God why me. I've just accepted it, and let's power through it. Let's beat this. And uh, we're going to continue to fight the good fight. Um, and I know that I have no worries about whether or not I'm going to finish because I got good people on my team. And that being said, thank you for having me on. It's been a privilege. I absolutely adore you. You're my brother, and I love you.
I love you too, man.
And tell Denny that I love her, and I love her more than I love you.
As well, you should.
And the next time you're singing, you got to shout out to me and make sure it gets on video.
No worries. Next song is dedicated to you, brother. Um, Jamie Turner, everybody, my good friend. Thank you for being on the show, and God bless you, bro. I am in your corner.
I appreciate
Thank you.